Managing Director and Research Analyst covering the U.S. tech sector at Wedbush. Dan, good to see you. Thank you for
Thanks for
joining
having me.
and sharing your views with South Korea's investors. I want to go right to the big techs. Korean investors love them, but the tech-heavy Nasdaq suffered a bit. What's your price target on Nasdaq and why?
Yeah, it's been a major rotation trade, in terms of reopening. And you've seen tech stocks, really under pressure here, as a lot of these momentum names were crowded. But in our opinion, tech stocks go up another 30% this year. We have Nasdaq 16,000. I view this as a short-term correction. I think we're still in the midst of a multi-year bull rally for tech, as well as electric vehicles, disruptive technology. And I just view it as just a white knuckle period that will be short-lived as we go into the later spring and summer.
That's great. Then give us a line on Tesla, please. The leading EV maker is very hot in Korea. It bought Bitcoin recently, and Korean investors have their eyes on that too. Tesla gained about 700% last year. What about this year? What's the price you want to pay for a share of Tesla? I understand you are a Tesla bull, but what are challenges coming?
Yeah, no doubt. Like in the EV market, we're going into a golden age of EVs. We believe $5 trillion is going to be spent over the next decade, and you're going to see significant growth, not just in China, but across Asia, Korea, US, as well as Europe. We think we're only in just the early days of this playing out. Now, like Tesla, I think this year, by the end of the year, I think we're looking at $1 trillion market cap from Tesla. Now, obviously, valuation continues to compress. I think there's just broader worries that there's more boats in the ocean. You look at GM, Ford, Volkswagen, every other, sort of going all in on EVs. But I think there's many winners in the sector. But when I look at Tesla, right now, we're talking about what's on a trajectory for probably 800,000 units this year, 1 million into next year. And I still view this as a digestion period in terms of the valuation. And I think it's a stock that's more in a temporary pressure, like we're seeing across tech and EVs. And the stock goes much higher this year. I still think $1 trillion market cap later this year.
Well, the South Korea's exports rely on the auto industry. And you mentioned about the GM and traditional players. And what is your call on the global auto sector from an EV perspective? Is it going to be Tesla's word, or how about the traditional players you mentioned? And of course, the Hyundai Motors. Hyundai launched its new EV lately, and I wonder who's going to win the game.
Yeah, and right now, I think there's many winners. I think specifically when we look at Hyundai, we still believe that despite some of the talk that they are in talks with Apple, I believe Apple, the most likely EV partners would be Volkswagen, Hyundai, followed by Ford. And when we start to look at it from an export perspective, it's a massive supply chain being built out there, but the demand continues to increase. I think GM has significant opportunity to really transform the company, as well as Ford. I think Tesla continues to lead the charge, call it 80-85% market share. But we believe EVs overall goes from 3% of automotive today globally to 10% by 2025, being accelerated across Asia. China clearly is the leader today, but I think what we're starting to see is Europe, other parts of Asia, US start to play catch up, especially in this green tidal wave.
That's great. Would you tell us about Apple? It's one of the most popular US stocks in Korea. And Apple released impressive fourth quarter numbers lately. And what's your big takeaway on the future roadmap of Apple?
Yeah, right now it's a super cycle playing out. We think that they ultimately exceed their record from 2015 with iPhone 12. And we think we could be looking at 240 million units. No doubt the stock, like many other tech names, Tesla and others, has been under pressure. We think Apple right now is continue to be a re-rating stock. In the midst of a super cycle, our checks across the supply chain have been bullish. I think it's a 2-year cycle, not just an iPhone 12, but going into iPhone 13. The services business alone, we believe, is worth 1.2 to 1.3 trillion. And then you're going to start to see more and more growth levers from AR, VR to the electric vehicle and to others. And that's why we still believe that Apple's a $3 trillion market cap over the next 12 to 18 months. I view it as a golden buying opportunity in terms of this pullback, not just for tech, but Apple continues to be our favorite large cap name.